and then it will actually create a bath remedy specifically for those heavy emotions and start breaking them down, because that's the underlying factors to disease. Okay, so that's where we're working on, is the root cause. We're not just treating the symptoms that mainstream does, we're going to the underlying factors. And the thing is that I don't expect my clients to tell me their whole life story. They don't have to divulge all of their deep dark secrets or anything like that. But a lot of the time people will say, oh my gosh, this can actually say, hey, if you keep going on this path, you could end up with this. Okay, so that's when it's my job to go, hey, we're going to do this, 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 and this. We're going to put these strategies into place. We're going to tweak, you know, some of your diet, some of your lifestyle things, some of the things that you're doing, but you need to start doing some emotional work, some energetic work to clear these blocks, because we know that a thought can just be a thought, but when you attach an emotion to it, then the brain and the gut creates a chemical, and then it floods the body, and then the body has a physical reaction. So each emotion will have a different frequency, and heavy emotions tend to get stuck in our organs, okay? So like grief and sadness tends to sit in the lungs, anger and hate sits in the liver, fear and anxiety, all that kind of stuff sits in the kidneys. How did it know this? Because you just pinpointed everything right here for me and everything that's gone on. And another tool that I actually use specifically with the system that probably wasn't meant to go with the system is a fantastic book called The Secret Language of Your Body by Inna Segal. So if anybody has got that book, I use it like a Bible, because then we can actually look at if somebody is presenting with issues in the pancreas or the kidneys or wherever it may be, we can look up in that book and look at the emotional state as to why that person has the stuckness. And it was always usually, you know, very, very accurate and sits with that person. And then in that book, it's different to the Louise Hay one. TheLouise Hay one is lovely, but it doesn't give you a solution.
My name is Terry Messenger, and I am
Hey, and welcome to Terry Messenger's Genius Zone. And, you know, this is the place and the space where you are going to get your own free masterclass, absolutely free.
Hello, Kim. It is so nice to be sitting here in this beautiful space.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. You're welcome, and I'm glad that you're here. Thank you.
Yes, and I do have to say that as soon as I walked into this space, I got an immediate sense of calm, and there was just a vibration energy that was so real. And do you want to know something else that was even stranger?
Yeah.
I drove directly here. I was supposed to pull in here only to then open up my Google Maps. And I looked up and it was you.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, you know, it was the stars were lined up. And speaking of the stars lining up, you know all about energy healing. You know all about clearing. You know all about soul contracts.
Yeah.
And you also know about the experience that people have when they are empaths or when they are intuitive and when they're in touch with something that is more in their creative or their spiritual side, and how shut down that they can be and how isolated. And, you know, I can remember going through that as a child.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Myself.
Yeah. Sort of like a black sheep thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think those of us that were born that way, we will, you know, you have those differences when you're growing up. I know it's not great then, but now I am so happy that I am different from everybody else. I don't want to be the same as anybody else, and I welcome those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, going through all corporate and everything like that, when I'm the one with crystals on my desk and everything, and people come over and go, "What's that rock on your desk?" and I'll be like, "Oh, it's just there because it's pretty," kind of thing. Or just growing up being vegan as well was so difficult. Try being vegan in the 90s.
Oh, I can just imagine.
Yeah, it was so hard, but yeah, I'm not trying to play on that. It's just literally because I was just born vegetarian, not ever been able to have meat. And then as I hit puberty, I just haven't been able to have dairy. So that was just naturally what my body was wanting.
It was
so
like
I just had to,
contract.
I just had to go down that path. So I think for me, I've always been of a higher vibration for those kind of things. And funny enough, I'm allergic to alcohol. So,
oh my goodness. Well, I'm not sure that I want that because, that could be very, very convenient. But, one of the things that I noted, and we will come back to your backstory, is that, we were talking backstage, obviously, about how people come into this place. And you have a specific setup that reads DNA and looks into almost the intelligence of the body, if you will. And you've seen where people have had cancer, where they've been diagnosed, and one can only imagine, where they're sitting when they're in that space, like how devastating that must be. And then you've been able to see a different picture. Now, before we do go ahead, let's make a disclaimer here. And Kim certainly doesn't profess to cure or take the place of anything that, is out there. But what Kim does is obviously in the supernatural. It is what my husband Ian would talk about, the intelligence of the body. Because we were laid down at birth. That was his exact words. The spinal cord, the nervous system is the first thing that was laid down at birth. We are the miracle. And yet, mainstream runs away from that. So can you talk me through, how this system, obviously we'll get you to talk about the name of the system that you're using, and also what happens when someone who, say, has cancer, for example, comes in and then suddenly you see another picture, and what then happens as a result?
Okay, so the system that I have, it's Russian technology. It's called the Metatron NLS Bioresonance scanning system. So NLS stands for non-linear system. So it basically works on the biometrics of the body. So there is a headset that is just placed on the temples, and it's actually magnets. And it goes through the bone structure, and it reads the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So that's our energetic highway. So that's where all the information is coming from. So the system being quantum-based, and like I said, it is Russian technology. It is actually calibrated to know the optimum working level of every cell, and what it's picking up on is the disturbances. So basically, it is reading your field as well as your emotional state and also the physical state. So that's when it can pre-diagnose serious illnesses or disease before they are in the physical, because it's reading the energy.
Okay, so it actually knows before.
Yes. So it can actually say, hey, if you keep going on this path, you could end up with this. Okay, so that's when it's my job to go, hey, we're going to do this, 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 and this. We're going to put these strategies into place. We're going to tweak, some of your diet, some of your lifestyle things, some of the things that you're doing, but you need to start doing some emotional work, some energetic work to clear these blocks, because we know that a thought can just be a thought, but when you attach an emotion to it, then the brain and the gut creates a chemical, and then it floods the body, and then the body has a physical reaction. So each emotion will have a different frequency, and heavy emotions tend to get stuck in our organs, okay? So like grief and sadness tends to sit in the lungs, anger and hate sits in the liver, fear and anxiety, all that kind of stuff sits in the kidneys. So all these kind of things will come up and they will be presented. So it can actually name all the heavy emotions that are stuck in your body. It will come up with anxiety, irritation, hate, grievance, all these kind of things, and we can actually see where they're sitting. And then it will actually create a bark remedy specifically for those heavy emotions and start breaking them down, because that's the underlying factors to disease. Okay, so that's where we're working on, is the root cause. We're not just treating the symptoms that mainstream does, we're going to the underlying factors. And the thing is that I don't expect my clients to tell me their whole life story. They don't have to divulge all of their deep dark secrets or anything like that. But a lot of the time people will say, oh my gosh, this is so accurate, and how did it know this? Because you just pinpointed everything right here for me and everything that's gone on. And another tool that I actually use specifically with the system, that probably wasn't meant to go with the system, is a fantastic book called The Secret Language of Your Body by Inna Segal. So if anybody has got that book, I use it like a Bible, because then we can actually look at if somebody is presenting with issues in the pancreas or the kidneys or wherever it may be, we can look up in that book and look at the emotional state as to why that person has the stuckness. And it was always usually, very, very accurate and sits with that person. And then in that book, it's different to the Louise Hay one. The Louise Hay one is lovely, but it doesn't give you a solution. It doesn't tell you how to fix or get rid of that frequency or energy, whereas the Inner Segal one does. So that's where I send people homework. So I will give them the strategies and say, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to clear, and those kind of things. So then we are working from that emotional base, which is causing that stuckness in the organ, okay? So then that organ can't function properly because the energy is blocked and stopped. So then once we get that to flow better again, then the energy, the organ can regenerate itself, and the body can start healing and repairing. So we've got to get rid of that stuckness, which is generally that emotional state coming from traumas. But a lot of people are carrying a lot of past life stuff that they don't really realise either. So there can be clearing of a lot of ancestral pathways and everything as well that are causing what's happening in somebody's lifetime. But yeah, obviously the system.
Like that's a big one,
it
like
is.
clearing the ancestral lineage. And I love what you said about the fact that you are going to the underlying root cause of the issue, because obviously that's, obviously you're utilising this incredible resource. And, in another spiritual quantum, way or, modality, I know that you can pull those cords. And when you know exactly where they're derived from, and you don't need the whole story. You don't need to know about, the extramarital affairs that your ex had, or the, all of the elements that went on. But it's more of the energy, isn't it? So what has happened when someone has come to you and they've had cancer, and then you've looked at this machine and you've gone, well, actually you don't.
Well, the machine was specifically created to diagnose cancers for then the physical. So all the quantum physics, all of the medical science that goes into the diagnostic system, I've got that and I've read through all of that. So it actually presents very differently on the screen to what's just all average aches and pains and every other little thing. So it shows up very specifically different. So I've only seen that 4 times in the 5 years that I've been doing it, even when people have got those diagnoses. Yes, there is stuckness in that particular organ, in that particular space, but it doesn't actually bring up that actual diagnosis. And you can see it in quite a few different areas. It will come up in the comprehensive blood test. It'll bring up different tumour markers or things like that. And the pattern that it actually presents with, if there's a lump or if there's an issue there, it presents completely differently, in a different colour, in a different pattern to what normal kind of stuckness looks like. Okay, so it is completely different the way it's read.
Do you actually see the?
Correct, you can see it, and you can't hide anything. It's right there, in front of you. So I know that it does work, and I know that I've used it as a tool to help heal myself, because when I first got the system, I put myself on there, and I had a gallbladder full of gallstones. I had, it actually diagnosed me as non-insulin dependent pancreatic diabetic. And I had issues with my thyroid. Okay, so I was like, oof, okay, none of that really resonates with me. But again, when you understand the trauma and the things that I had been through, then the things that I was holding on to in my body, that is why I had, you know, all the gallstones is from your hardened anger. So when that all starts moving through, that's hardened anger. So I went through a detoxing process and started doing the work like from the Inner Segal book and just visualizing, almost like Pac-Man, those of you who are old enough to remember, the pew, pew, pew. So actually in your mind's eye, actually going in and do the visualization work and breaking down, dissolving in your mind's eye, doing that. And then again with the pancreas, really starting to let go of stuff that happened and actually allowing myself to have sweetness, to have fun, to have things in my life that I was denying myself because of, you know, what happened to me in the past. And then obviously with thyroid issues, that really is comes from a lot of kidney stress. And a lot of anxiety really triggers the thyroid. But all the underlying things, again, is throat chakra. So, again, if someone has been suppressed or not allowed to have their voice or have their opinion and that kind of thing. So I've done a lot of work with the system on myself. I no longer have any of those issues anymore. Okay,
because you've actually been able to pinpoint. So a person, say, with thyroid, they're about anxiety and a suppressed voice. Is that what?
Well, yeah, everyone's different, but a lot of it will come from kidney stress. So the kidneys will trigger the thyroid. Okay, so if we can calm down and get rid of that adrenal stress, it's going to help the thyroid. But yes, if there's a lot going on here, again, if somebody's smoking or taking a lot of medication, as everything like passes through the chakras, that's still going to have an effect on here. But yeah, trauma-based issues, everything like that, even bullying, obviously anything where they can't have a voice or they're not able to have a voice is going to impact the thyroid. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I do energetics, and that is a component of neuro-linguistic programming, but I really feel that rather than putting a name on it, it's more about the spiritual modality of being able to go into the quantum and into that spiritual kind of energetics and understanding that, you know, we are carrying, you know, our dis-ease, if you will, of the mind in our body. And whether it's emotional, it gets stuck and then it manifests in all these ways. So when you think of it, it really makes sense that if you are able to really track what you have to deal with, and then you can dissolve, clear, and release it.
Absolutely.
Then that's massive, you know, and you've done a lot of healing. So I'm wondering if we can open this up. So it's a bit about your backstory. And you definitely called it the dark night of the soul. And, you know, the way that I saw that was that, you know, there was the element that I heard with your relationship. That happened to you directly to do with the throat, so I'll let you talk through that. And then there was another situation like with your pet animal, and so that's another one. So both of these are like abusive, traumatic types of, you know, elements. And, you know, I know that when, you know, we're looking at tracking these things, there's usually three that we want to pinpoint where we'll go, okay, so this happened, and then this happened. And it's almost like you are kind of completely releasing, dissolving, clearing, and demolishing the structures that are set up. So by pulling out that one and saying, I don't need you anymore, and pulling out this one and saying, okay, I don't need you anymore either, and then going back. And then even though they're all different scenarios, different days, different times, different, you know, people involved, they all have an energetic that is a little familiar. Do you want to talk me through the energetics of that and how you were able to find yourself and heal and come through the healing journey. And also, can I bring up the soul contract that's attached? Because I think that this will give a lot of, I mean, I feel for you personally that there must be a lot of comfort in knowing that was my soul contract, and that was also part of it for the involvement of significant other as well. So would you like to just talk us through that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, where to start? So I think without sounding like I'm coming from a place of ego, I think being an older soul, like a lot of us are that are in the healing kind of modalities and space, I think, again, being incarnated at this time is really pertinent. And those of us that have special gifts and will go on to do a lot more in the coming future, I think at the beginning, the dark powers that be, whatever you want to say, were really trying to stifle us in the beginning of our life, really trying to put us down, downtrod us, really stop us from becoming who we potentially can be. So for me, I think that really came in the form of a lot of abusive relationships. Unfortunately, I just kept attracting the same kind of person that was very controlling and very physically abusive. I had many times where, if I did have the courage to speak up or speak out, I either got punched or I got held up against the wall, by my throat like this. So no, they weren't fun, but they were, again, it's just the learning experience. It's part of the learning to know, that's not okay, and I will never allow anybody to do any of that to me ever again. But then, moving forward, similar kind of thing, I think, because again, when you haven't fully stepped into your purpose, into your high vibrational state, you're still attracting these lower vibrational people again, right? So again, I've done a bit of work, but then I still wasn't to a place where I am now, and I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means. I'm still healing, I'm still working on myself, but going back about probably maybe 11 years ago now, I was feeling like I've kind of been left on the shelf, and all my friends were getting married and doing all this sort of little things. So I thought, well, let's give it another try, and went on the dating apps like you do, and found someone. And I think I had a bit of beer goggles on, whatever you want to say, because this guy was really hot, and I think that's what you kind of look through. He was nice and we got on really well, but somehow, I don't know, it was just, there was red flags at the beginning, and I just
you chose to put the
I didn't see them, and that was part of this whole learning of what unfolded and what happened. But anyway, to cut a long story short, this guy, I allowed him to be in my house while I wasn't home, while I was at work, to fix a few things around the house and this and that. But every time I came home, my dog was a little bit more worse for wear. And I was just like, what are you doing? He's like, nothing, everything's fine. Until one day I came home and my dog couldn't even stand up straight. His eyes were kind of like bulging out of his head. And then I couldn't get a hold of this person to say, where are you? What's going on? What happened? He wouldn't take my call. So I had to rush my dog off to the vet. And then I got sent to Murdoch Hospital, where he went through a series of tests, and he had a cracked skull. He had broken ribs, he had internal bleeding, and he'd bitten through his tongue. So it was almost like that's something that's not really going to be able to heal, so he couldn't eat or couldn't drink or, anything like that. So this guy had been abusing my dog while I wasn't home, just little bit by little bit by little bit. And I see now in hindsight that my dog was trying to tell me, but I just wasn't seeing it, And unfortunately, my dog didn't survive it. He passed away, a few days later, which was just completely heartbreaking, in my arms. And it honestly, it broke me, because
he, in a way, like you said to me, and I couldn't help feeling a sense of comfort around this, because obviously I love animals, and that's just, that's just an abomination as far as I'm concerned, right? But when you told me that even your dog had a soul contract, but there's a legacy here. So, and this is what, this is what my show's all about, because it's about the fact that people, they go through this pain, And you hit the nail on the head actually before, because you said to me, you know, people have a soul contract and therefore they go through the journey, you know, so that they can learn something, and a lot of them will be able to heal. But there are some that don't, they're not so fortunate, and their soul is not wanting to move forward. But in that moment when you said that to me, I felt this incredible sense of like a surrender, like it's almost as if, well, you know, if we were predestined, and before we even entered onto the planet, we were called, and a great big movie screen came up, and there was our life, you know, and it was like the best, you know, box office smash hit. You're the superhero, and of course, you're not going to go to a movie and pay, I think it's like around $30 these days, and then the popcorn and everything else, to watch a movie full of rainbows and butterflies. You are going to go in there for the juice. Yeah. You want to go in there, you want to see, okay, it starts off okay, but then comes that pain, then comes all the challenges, all the big, you know, huge adversities. But then, of course, that hero conquers through. Yeah. So it's almost like they, in their soul contract, have been able to go back in time and go, well, hang on a minute, you are going to have a dog. That is going to happen. And your dog's right beside you, kind of thing. Oh, yeah, and you're going to attract this person into your life, and, oh, they're going to strangle you, or they're going to desert you, or they're going to abandon you, or whatever it happens to be. But all these elements that take place, they're all appearing on this movie. But then on the other side, because there's always, you know, like you have the ending, and it's the superpower. Yeah. It's where you've stepped into the, okay, you've conquered, you know. And I always say that greatness does not evolve from cotton wool. So, yeah. So could it be, so here's my question, could it be that all of this pain, because it's just heartbreaking, like to hear what happened to your dog. I'm sure there'll be listeners out there that would just grieve about that. I know that that's what I felt. When you look at it though, could it be that your dog and all of those people that were some of your greatest teachers are a really big part of your legacy, of what you are called to be and do, and who you are as you stand powerfully in this place, because, you know, you've got machines that give people hope. Yeah. You know? Yeah, absolutely. So a part of my healing process to get through that trauma, because plus I was being severely bullied at my job at that time, and then I found out I was pregnant to that guy, and I can't have children because I've got spinal surgery. My spine is fused with metal rods, so I can't bend or carry a child or anything like that. So my pets were my children. But going through the healing process, when I already was here at the centre, when I had this business, I have access to some of the most amazing healers. So I had a few sessions with a particular person, and she was able to let me know that what happened was the last of my karmic debt. So I had a solar plexus connection to this guy, and this cord was so thick and fibrous, it took her nearly 3 hours to get through and get that cord cut because it was so strong. But in a past life, I had wronged or killed something of his that he loved, okay? So not that that makes it okay, but that was the last of my karmic debt. And Oliver was obviously there, part of his soul contract. By the way, Oliver is her beloved dog.
Was the dog, yes. So he was all a part of that and agreed to come in to take that hit for me, literally, and to show me who this guy really was, what was going to happen, and that this wasn't the path or this wasn't the person for me whatsoever. It took that really tragic, horrible event for all of this to really to be where I am now, to be actual, as horrible as it is, but it really catapulted me to be where I am now, because during this time going through all that grief and that heartache, plus being bullied at work, and just, you know, you're driving to work and you're just vomiting because you just don't know what's going to happen that day at work because of all the bullying and the gaslighting and, you know, everything going on. That's how bad it got for me. So you imagine that. I'm sure, you know, a lot of people have been through similar things, but you're just holding on to all of that in your body. And then how things just, are just not working so well for you. So that's why I'm saying that's why I had the gallstones and the pancreas problems and all that kind of thing, because it was from all of that that I was holding on
because
to.
we're basically, you know, our body is like a library. It's a library of memory that is stored. And, you know, quite often we wonder why we get triggered. Certain things will trigger us and we'll think, oh, okay, why did that suddenly just happen? Like I just reacted. But that's because the body remembers.
That's right.
And yet when we can learn, and I feel that it's just incredible that you have recommended that book. We'll put it in the notes as well. Because, you know, it means that you can go and ask yourself the question, okay, I've got this thyroid problem, or I'm suffering from, you know, the doctor says that I'm on the verge of diabetes, say, for example. That's not me, but, you know, let's just say. Or, you know, God forbid, for these poor people, because it's just so prevalent at the moment, cancer's just become, you know, diabolical with how many people are actually contracting it. And yet, when we can go to the root and go, well, actually, I remember my mum went through breast cancer, and we learned that she was carrying it on the side of where there's mother and daughter family issues. And, you know, and it's interesting that when you do that, you can go back and you can heal it. So tell me, did you have to do any forgiveness? Were you able to really forgive and let go?
A lot. For me, going back, I was a little ball of anger all the time. And so I really had to really let go a lot of that, and really had to forgive myself was the hardest thing, because
forgive yourself for letting that happen.
For letting it happen, because I was just the shame that brought. I think that was the hardest thing to get through, other than the grief, was the shame that why didn't I see this? Why didn't I stop it? Why didn't I protect? You know,
isn't that what we do though? Like,
I know.
People do
just,
that. Like,
it's a part of
it's like when you lose someone, everyone will find a way of connecting how they're partially responsible or how they could have changed something. But it's almost like our human, you know, instinct of wanting to rescue or to say, but at least you know that you're kind of, there's that value of your soul, and you're going, how could have I let that happen to my soul, you know, kind of thing. But it's interesting, because when I was doing a DeMartini breakthrough many, many years ago, it was interesting that you became more evolved even when you were able to forgive others. But most predominantly, the biggest one was forgiving yourself.
And also I would learn, I think I can say honestly that the hardest thing was going through the NLP courses that I did, was actually, and a lot of the other training that I've done, was actually, I didn't realize that I didn't love myself. And that is a big one for so many people, to actually be able to stand in front of a mirror and be happy and joyous and grateful for what you see, but also to be able to tell yourself that you love yourself, and all that kind of thing. I couldn't do that for a long time.
I mean, Louise Hay is really big on that, isn't she? Like waking up in the morning and, you know, I don't do that, you know, but I would say something, because this was very profound, actually. My husband, Ian, he's a chiropractor. So he did a lot of the energy work that you're talking about, and he was able to, through kinesiology, pick up in the body and be able to see what was going on. One of the things, nearly always when we were doing our workshops together, nearly always, women always, and men too, but seem to be mostly women, have this issue of just this non-self-acceptance and
Yeah.
self-love and self-worth and self-empowerment. And, you know, Ian did something that was very profound. And I remember he did it to me, and probably best to describe my own experience. But, you know, we look in the mirror, right? And you're probably a bit like me. You look in the mirror and go, I want to say, I love you today.
No, I mean, I don't do that every day.
But you know what I mean?
As an
I
exercise.
do that, yeah, but the exercise is hard.
Yeah.
But this was different because Ian brought me to the mirror. Now, he had a theory that people don't look at themselves. They kind of, it's more that they're looking to examine themselves, like, oh, is my lipstick straight, or the men, do I need to shave, you know? So you're sort of looking more analytically at your face. But it's really interesting. You want to try this. You go up to a mirror. Now, he stood behind me and he held my shoulders. And he told me to look into the mirror and see what I saw. And what I saw reflecting back at me was just someone completely different. It was absolutely profound. And I feel that maybe like you, I found it hard to just be able to look in the mirror and say all those things for whatever reason. But when someone came up, you were able to suddenly see yourself as a, I don't know, almost like that spiritual person that you are. And there's just something very magical about releasing, forgiving yourself, and also that space of knowing what what you advocate for, which is that, you know, it's a soul contract. But I do have a question on the soul contract.
Yeah.
Is a soul contract only when it is like you come on the planet and you meet that person where you have this really diabolical relationship? Is it only in a situation like that, or is it with good relationships too? Like,
it's for everything. So pretty much my understanding about soul contracts, I learned through David Wilcox. I do a lot of reading, David Wilcox is an amazing in his Synchronicity Keys book, I think it is in. There's a whole chapter there where it is if people understand Edgar Cayce. So Edgar Cayce would go into a deep trance and then he would channel and bring through information. So this is how this information got brought forward, was before we incarnate, we go through a whole panel of light beings and people on the other side of, they have a history and a list of everything we've already experienced, everything we've already done in our previous lifetimes. And then we are brought forward and say, hey, these are the last few things I need to tick off my list, or these are the things I haven't experienced yet. Let's go do this. And you kind of get that stamp of approval that that's your soul contract. They might add in a bit of spice here and a bit of spice there, a few extra things, but it's not just a random thing. It's the place, the time, the parents, everyone around you is all within all of that. So if you want, more in depth on that, I would say, go look at David Wilcox. But also the fact that we're always incarnated with our soul family. So your mother could have been your brother, your father, your boss, all these different lifetimes we have had. It's all the same kind of soul family groups, and we play different roles in different lifetimes. It really is. So when you look at it at that point, I know with me that my mum and I are very connected and we're very close, and we've been in many, many lifetimes together. So, and I think it's the same with other people that you come across when you've just met someone, but you just feel like, oh my God, I've known you all my life, kind of thing. And again, that's a part of your soul family. So it plays into a lot of different things, but Earth is a learning school, and Earth is the hardest incarnation that we can ever have. So we've all had, if you're a younger soul, you would have had, a few hundred lifetimes. If you're an older soul, you would have had thousands and thousands of lifetimes on other planets, other galaxies, other dimensions, other places. So we bring some of those experiences forward. But when we come to Earth, for whatever reason, and incarnate as a human, our memory is wiped. Okay? And that's a part of the challenge. That's a part of our life journey and process. Is, we've got these things to tick off our list, but then we have to come through and get to that point. Even if you want to put it down to give it a label as your Kundalini rising, if you want to put it that way, your enlightenment is getting to that remembering stage, okay? And that's what a lot of everybody is going through at the moment, whether they realize it or not. And that's the ascension process that we're going through. We're moving from the third density, the 3D, into the fifth dimension. So everything that's going on at the moment, we are all upgrading. And we are all changing from carbon-based human beings to crystalline-based, okay? So that's why everybody is feeling so exhausted and just emotionally triggered at the moment, because that's coming from the solar flares. So that is upgrading us, and it's just getting more and more and more intense, because for us to actually shift to the fifth dimension, everybody needs to be at least 25% crystalline, okay? So whether people are awake, whether they're not, it's happening to all of us. So that is what's going on. So I think I mentioned before, I get a lot of clients coming to me thinking that they're dying, not that that's something to laugh at, but thinking that there's something seriously wrong with them, but it's not, it's just ascension symptoms. So they've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on all these tests, and mainstream can't find anything wrong with them, and that's because it's not, it's ascension symptoms. So there is anybody that knows Elizabeth Peru in Adelaide, she's a lovely astronomer lady, I think. She, on her website, she has a blog there which explains all the ascension process in layman's terms, and I've downloaded that blog, and I will email that to people and give it out to people to really help them understand. And
You're an ambassador, girlfriend.
Oh, these are the tools that I use and the research that I've done and how it's helped me, and these are the things that I use. So I pass them on. What is the point of, so that's mine,
Well, that's right. I mean,
we've got to give freely.
We've got to be able to give freely, and there's so much, I guess, competition and, insecurity and people holding on and grabbing, and it's not spiritual.
No.
That's part of the ego, and we all fall into that trap. But when you know what you know, and I love it, because you really have opened up that 5-dimension compared to the 3-dimensional, and really we are spiritual beings,
absolutely,
having a human experience. So sometimes the more evolved we become, the greater it is. Now, just speaking of that, if you happen to be in Perth, Western Australia, this is the Vivacious Living. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes.
So the Vivacious Living. So this beautiful lady, Kim Hardaker, the founder, owner here of this place, there is a story also that is a very spiritual story, and I'd like to kind of allow you to share on that, the legacy story, because that's very much a part of your brand as well. And I feel that the baton has been passed on to you in such a tremendous way, and it also demonstrates it doesn't matter where you've been through your life and what's happening. When you listen to some of the things that Kim has shared here and what we're talking about, I believe that's when it can be just a sense of relief, just in knowing that there is something much higher than us, much deeper than us, and, it's all part of our evolution. But, with no further ado, I want to hand over to the legacy story.
All right, thank you.
Of, this place, how it came about, and your mentor.
Well, I've been the owner at Vivacious Living Centre here for 8.5 years. So the centre's actually been running for nearly 30. So I'm the 4th owner. So how that came to be, so after my tragic event, while that was all going on, I had some very good friends who were also practitioners. So my NLP coach, David, and his partner at the time, Jacqueline Travis, we had done all the courses here at the centre. So I've basically grown up here over 16 years.
Were they NLP?
David is and was at that time, but Jacqueline was teaching metaphysics, crystal healing, Reiki. She's a Reiki master, all that kind of thing. So David kind of just tagged along to a lot of psychic fairs and everything in the past, and then he started studying and learning the NLP, and then got to actually teach it and all that kind of thing. So David, when I was running some magazines, David was my graphic designer. And so he was always talking to me about all this stuff, and I was just like a sponge. Everything was just resonating with me, and I just couldn't get enough. And he's like, come do my course, come, let's start this journey. So that's kind of how I started and got into it, was starting through that. And then obviously meeting Jacqueline and doing her Reiki courses and her crystal healing courses and everything like that. They were still my teachers, they were my mentors, but they were very much my friends. And I was very, very close with them. But being here at the centre and doing all my certification courses here, before I even got to own the place. I remember actually being in the kitchen, right in here, standing in there going, man, if I owned this place, I'd do this, and this. This is what I would do straight away.
Vision
and it was really weird, and it's something that you just like forget. Anyway, so after I went through, or during my dark soul of the night, David actually contacted me, and he's like, Kim, Vivacious is up for sale. You have to buy it. You have to rescue it. It's just really not in a good way, and we want to continue to keep working from here. Well, we want to keep doing what we're doing. Can you come and take the place over? Can you come and buy it? And I just went, yeah, okay. That sounds like a good idea, because nothing else was working in my life. Everything was just came out, and I just thought, well, okay, let's give this a try. Let's make an inquiry. Let's start and see what happens. And everything just went bang, 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 bang. It just went so easy. Everything just fell into place. And I was like, wow, okay. Even my family was like, what are you doing? Kind of thing. And it's just like, if I can help other people, then I can help heal myself. And that's what it was all about. But because I already had a relationship with the centre, I already had a knowing and a bond, if you want to put it that way.
It called you.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% never thought of it that way, but I think you're right there, that it just grew. But I really had to strip it back because of the previous owners. There was lots of different negative and, should we say, egotistical and stuff and everything that happened. So I really had to, when I took over, a lot of the practitioners were bitching, and that's my client. No. I was just like, no, we're not high school here.
Dissolve, clear, and release.
Get rid of all of that. And it took me a really good 3 months to really clear the energy from a lot of the rooms and the space, to really get it to a decent level that people could start working from. So I really was able to turn the business around within a few months, and then really start attracting some high vibrational people that are on the same page as me. So not about the money. Okay. So yes, money is an energy, money is important. We competitive spirit. So it's not about that. When, to me, what makes sense to me is the law of one, and being in service to humanity. So for me, I will look at practitioners who have a similar story as well, that put people first, that put healing, that put that first, not the money.
That's why you're on this show.
I
know.
are
on this show for that very reason.
It's no secret, but I have struggled a lot financially over the last few years.
Jackie actually sadly passed away.
So going through all of that, so Jackie she ended up moving to Queensland, and then she would still come here to Perth and do her crystal courses every 3 months, and that kind of thing. And she would stay with me, and I'd love that time when she had a couple of weeks with her, and we just have our time together. And then, she got a diagnosis of lymphoma. All through her life, she had breast cancer previously, which she got through. But I think for Jackie, again, because she was such a special, she was actually a Lyran starseed. So she was a very special soul. She always had reptilian energies on her. So when she was trying to teach,
would you like to talk about reptilian? Because a lot of people won't know about what reptilian energy is. But it's quite deep in the metaphysics, in the quantum, in the the way the brain works.
So it's quite demonic, if you want to say that way, not quite. So the reptile kind of thing. But it was really stifling for her, because every time she taught and would actually speak universal truths and quantum stuff, she would be coughing all the time and always had her throat and seize up. So she was able to eliminate one entity from her, but the other one always stayed here. So she ended up with lymphoma, and where was it? Here. So she got to a point where she couldn't eat, she couldn't breathe, she couldn't swallow. But that was, again, her soul contract. She had done what she needed to do. She had spent 25 years of her life writing this crystal course, which is the most amazing course. And because she passed in 2021, which obviously the world was not going through a very fun stage, I wasn't able to travel to Queensland to be with her, and she had no family or anything with her at all. She pretty much died by herself. She had a few friends, but no real family, and I, you know, considered myself family. She considered me family because of everything that we had been through. But I had managed to I didn't even know what hospital she was in, but I just intuitively got exactly the right hospital and rang.
What are the chances of that?
And rang the palliative ward, and I was actually able to talk my way through to actually getting to speak to her a couple of days before she passed. And we were able to have somewhat of a conversation. She was fairly lucid at that point, which was lucky. And she gave me the permission to be able to carry on to be teaching her courses, because it is her life's work. It is in service to humanity. It is her legacy, and we want to keep that flame of knowledge burning and going. So I have been teaching it now, also with a co-facilitator, Brenda Rodriguez, who's a good friend of mine, and we've just added a few extra things into it. So 75 or 70% of it is obviously still Jackie's course, but we've added a few more things into it. So Brenda brings in all her Native American and Indigenous background with actually teaching people how to use smudge and how to actually cleanse spiritually and use all that kind of thing. I also bring in a lot of sacred geometry. I bring in more about using essential oils, because essential oils are very high frequency. They work very well with crystals, obviously. And also we do a lot more in the animal healing on the third day. Where we have Honey, my dog now.
You might be able to hear Honey. Actually,
she's walking around before. Sorry about that.
No, it's absolutely beautiful.
But Honey, anybody that's been to Vivacious knows that Honey is just a part of the centre. So she's my customer relationship officer, I call her, and she meets and greets all the clients and sits in the waiting room. But she loves the sound healings and the meditations, and will sit in the room with me when I'm doing my healing sessions and that. But she can't wait to get up on the massage table and have the pendulum done and have her energy healing and everything done, and she will just sit there and love it, and she's just all a part of it. So people during the course get to actually obviously work on a human, but then obviously work on a dog as well, because some people want to just specialize and go down the animal healing place, and other people want to just stick with humans, and that's fine. So it really opens up and gives them a lot of that experience and that work. So the 3 days that the crystal course is on, it's jam-packed. It is. I know it's an overload of information, and I wish I could add so much more into it.
But that's why we have got your backstory, because your backstory says it all. But I really feel that obviously as we conclude, the question that I do have now, this specific machine, because obviously this is really important. I know there's going to be people around the globe that hear this, and if they wanted to, say, do some work with you, or what you've got in your centre, and you're a very generous person, so you're the sort of person that's going to, in any case, meet with someone and really assess them, and then refer them or bring that beautiful healing gift that you've got to them. Can they receive some of these incredible, profound intelligence of their body, online with you? For example, if someone is suffering through a dis-ease, do you have that kind of a resource between yourself and your peers and colleagues in this space?
Unfortunately not at the moment. The Metatron, how it works, you have to be physically in person. It's not something that we can do over the internet. Unfortunately, you have to be physically in person. So I can't do any scanning or any diagnostic work with somebody that wasn't sitting beside me, unfortunately.
And I love your honesty. So what I would like to say, guys, if you are in Perth, you know, you've got to come here. You've got to drop in to this centre, because, you know, you are such a kind spiritual being that you shared with me that even people have gravitated by walking into this place, and you've sensed where they're at, and you have kindly just let them sit in, you know, in that waiting room where the energy, you've just got to be here to feel it. And, you know, if I was going to sum up in some words about what you do, I believe that you are a truth seeker. You are put on this planet to raise the vibration and the frequency of humankind. And, you know, bringing them back to their remembrance, bringing them into their truth.
Yes.
And, you know, my final question, because I just couldn't leave without this question, but if there was someone listening to your heart and soul here, you know, would there be a message? Maybe you might wake up tomorrow and go, oh, I would have liked to have shared that. Is there a little something you would like to share before we close?
Well, I think working with the clients that I do, what I love about it, especially working with the Metatron system, it's really empowering, and it's bringing people back to remembering that our mind is the strongest tool that we have. So it's just breaking down and breaking through those programs that no longer serve us, and having the strategies and the way forward and the confidence to do that. So I believe that I can give people a lot of strategies and help with moving forward. Obviously, in saying, like we just did, if people want to get in contact with me, I am happy to have conversations with them over the phone or on Zoom or anything like that, and we can talk through a lot of stuff, and I can help with the holistic coaching and that side of things. It's not something that I've actually done before, but I'm very capable of doing it, and if anybody wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to organise that kind of thing.
You are a very generous soul, and I do say that it would be worth it. It would definitely be worth it, you know, especially if you are suffering through the pain of the body. I know as soon as I began listening to this lady, and I didn't bang on about my story, but the first thing I thought of is, I can't wait to discuss, you know, with my husband with you, but that's a whole new podcast again.
Yeah.
But, you know, you are, as I said, that's what I sense, that you are here to raise the vibration of the planet. And you will do that. I can hear it. I mean, just the resources that you've given here is incredible. You know, the gift of the book, and, you know, talking about different elements. So, you know, we are made up to be united, aren't we?
Yeah,
really, that's what it's all about. And I feel that when we can remove all those barriers anyway, and just unite rather than segregation and competition, and you sort of feel, you know, and look, even the evolution of becoming awakened, this lady is definitely your person. So I just want to thank you so very much for your hospitality, allowing me to sit here, because I feel that my vibration has risen.
Excellent. That's good. That's what we want.
In the time that we've been here. So thank you so very much. And what we're going to do is we are going to put all of the details to get in contact with this beautiful lady in our show notes.
Thank you.
And is there any last words?
If anyone was interested in actually doing the crystal courses, it's all on the Vivacious Living Centre website, but we have had people come over from the eastern states and overseas actually to do the course. It is a certified course, practitioner course, but then a lot of people don't actually go on and use the certification. They just use it for themselves and for their knowledge. But there's just so much information in there. So if you are interested, it's something to really look at, and it's very affordable. It's not expensive, as a lot of these workshops are these days. It's very affordable. So
well, this
I
lady
welcome
is
you to come.
she's spiritual, and let me tell you, it's worth jumping on a plane and coming over here
Absolutely.
just for the experience. So keep an eye out on the website, check out in the notes, and we will see you on our next Genius Zone.
Thank you.
A show where we have explored through this various topic, along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.